Now, the probability of compound events, compound events is basically a probability that multiple events or many events are going to occur at the same time or in succession. So one after the other. So they all happen at the same time or one after the other. That's what we call the probability of compound events. So basically, we're going to be combining things. Let's say you flip a 3 fair coins. So we had 3 coins. Fair coins, that means 50% of the chance going to land on heads, 50% chance going to land on tails. So it's going to give me either tails or heads. And I call it fair because I didn't put any extra weight on any of the sides. What is the probability that you will get 2 heads and 1 tail in any order? Submit your answer as a decimal rounded to the thousands. Okay, interesting here though. Thousands. So 3 decimal places or as a fraction. Remember, if I'm gonna do it as a fraction, make sure it's simplified. Okay, so I had 3 coins, right? My first coin, how many choices do I get on the first coin? Well, 2 choices, right? Because I get heads or tails. On my second coin, I get heads or tails, and my third coin, I get heads or tails. When I multiply this out, I get 8. So that means I'm gonna get 8 possible outcomes. Ooh, interesting. So this is what we're gonna do. Let's say my coin number 1. I get 8 possible outcomes, right? Okay, let me do the half of it. So four of them are gonna be heads. So head, 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 tails, 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 tails. Question my coin number 2. Instead of going every 4, I'm gonna switch every 2. So head, head, tail, tail, head, head, tail, tail. Okay. And my third coin, I'm gonna do head, tails, head, tails, head, tails, head, and tails. Okay, those are the possible outcomes I can get. Now, my question here was, what is the probability that you will get 2 heads and 1 tail? Okay, let me find out how many of these are 2 heads and 1 tail. Not the first one, right? Because there's 3 heads. So here, coin 1 and 2 are heads, and coin number 3 is tail. So 2 heads and 1 tail. Here as well, and here, and it seems like that's it. So 2 heads and 1 tail. Okay. So I got, if I see this as a fraction, 3 out of 8. I can write this as a fraction. Make sure your fraction is simplified if possible. Now, if I'm going to do this as a decimal to the nearest thousandths, oh, that sounds like 1,000. 1,000 has 3 zeros. So rounded to 3 decimal places. I'm going to go to my calculator. I'm going to divide 3 divided by 8. And my result gives me 0.375. Do another example. If you roll 2 fair dice with 6 sides, what is the probability that the sum is greater than or equal to 7? Submit your answer as a decimal rounded to the thousandths place or as a fraction. Okay. So notice how on the top I did my first die. I get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. And my second die here, I get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. So let me have this represent my first die and this represent my second die. So if I get a 1 and a 1, when I add them is 2, right? Let me emphasize this in yellow, that's my first of the 2 dice. And then this in green is my older dice. I roll them. I look at the results. And then I'm going to call this 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Notice how for each of my squares, I'm just going to add what I get for my yellow dice and what do I get for my green dice. So let me fill this out. Let me use my magic. I'm just gonna make everything appear here. So remember, all I did was I added what I got on my yellow dice and what I got on my green dice because I threw them out there. And then the question was, what is the probability that the sum is greater than or equal to 7? So how many of these are equal or greater than 7? Let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21. Okay, 21 of them were 7 or higher. So that's my favorable outcome. How many are there altogether? I'm going to say there's 36, right? We can count them. There's 36 altogether. So I can write this as a fraction. Make sure your fraction is simple 5. So I'll call this 7 over 12. Can do this as a fraction, or I can do decimal. Right? I divide it. You run it to the nearest thousand, so 3 decimal places. I'm gonna call this 0.583. Make sure if you do fraction, make sure it's simple 5. 21 over 36 would have been incorrect. And if you do decimal, round it to the nearest thousands. Make sure you guys do that. Speaking of here, now you guys can see why when you get in dice, some of you guys later on will go to Las Vegas, will play craps, right? You guys throw in dice. And then one of the things that the casino says, if it lands on a 7, you lose. The casino wins. People will be, why 7? Because look at all my possible choices. 7 is a number that comes out the most. So that's why the casino says, if you land on a 7, you lose. They want to have the chances. So if I go don't come, because you guys can go play craps and says come or don't come, I will go for don't, because that gives me the higher probability. Some people don't know how to play it, and people said, okay, you're looking playing craps. You guys will learn how to play craps. Somebody might be, okay, we're looking for 11, or we're looking for 10. We're looking for 10. Look, there's only 3 tens. But how many 7s are there? So it's a higher chance that you're gonna land a 7 than a 10. So I don't know, some extra that we could see there. So any questions, feel free to contact me.